Hey folks, so it feels like spring is finally here up here in Alaska, here in Anchorage, and so I'm trying to spend more and more time outside because of course I was cooped up all winter, and so you've probably seen some of my videos where I'm out fishing and stuff like that. And I'll be posting a lot more of those. But I kind of wanted to get back to the whole main focus of the channel, which is really more of a philosophy kind of program, and or programming, however you want to look at it, really. And so I was rereading one of my novels in the Powers of the Earth series, Volume 3. And in Volume 3, I talk a lot about Miyamoto Musashi, who is arguably the greatest swordsman who has ever lived, and the philosophies that he taught. So we know that Miyamoto fought over 60 individual sword duels, winning all of them from the time he was a young teenager. And then, of course, he was in multiple battles where who knows how many enemies he killed. The estimate for the total is somewhere between 1 and 200. And it could be more than that. But he very much disliked the idea of killing for killing's sake. And only did so because of, their society's teachings and to hold to honor. So, and that's very, very interesting stuff, right? So, the teachings of Miyamoto were then put together in a couple of the books that he wrote. Of course, the biggest one of the Book of the Five Rings, where he talks about the two-sword methodology and stuff like that. But he talked a lot about philosophy. And in my third volume of the Powers of the Earth series, my main character goes back in time to meet with and be taught by Miyamoto Musashi, which is something that I wish that I could do as well. Now, Miyamoto died a very young man. He got lung cancer. Many believe because he liked to manufacture his own swords. So he was constantly, next to the fire to, melt and then shape the metal and pound it out. So he breathed in a lot of smoke, coal, soot, those kinds of things, leading to him getting lung cancer and passing away early. And but he accomplished a lot in his life. He was younger than I am now when he passed away. Excuse me. So what I wanted to do was kind of talk about the top 10 teachings of Miyamoto. And the number one is, number one, the ultimate aim of martial arts, or just the arts as he called them, is not having to use them. What does that mean? That means with an understanding of your own capabilities, and with others having an understanding of your capabilities, it will lead to folks not arbitrarily seeking to engage you in combat because they know your abilities and, probably that you could hurt them severely. So having those skills does that. It also increases your level of confidence. And that is something that is noticeable and, shall we say, you exude it, and other people pick up on that. So they know whether or not you have the confidence to know that you have capabilities. So there that is. So by having those, you use them far less than you otherwise would. Now, the next one, number 2, is interesting to me in that it kind of, I don't know if I agree with it. It is, do nothing that is of no use. And I'm not sure whether they translated this properly. I think if I've read it other times, it was, do nothing that is of no value. And so if you have something that you value, well, that's a whole different deal, right? And so if you value something, maybe going fishing, right, just for fun, would be considered of no use per se, but it certainly has value to you, whether it's psychologically, whatever the case might be. It just, helps you to function better because of that release and the ability to chill out, right? So think about that. Next, number 3. Think lightly of yourself, but deeply about the world. What he means by that is, don't take yourself too serious. You're not going to be here very long, all right? Human lifespan is short. And if you if you think too much about yourself, well, number one, it's not going to lead to good places for you, number one. And number 2, you won't be doing the things that are necessary in order to better the world itself while you're here. I think of Miyamoto's uncle, whose name was Doran. And Doran was a practitioner of Zen. So he created buildings, he created gardens, perfectly manicured in the Zen tradition. And although those were made hundreds of years ago, much of that is still in existence today. So, when you think about that, he was thinking deeply about the world, making the world a better place, even though he knew he wasn't going to be around forever. Number 4. Perceive that which cannot be seen by the naked eye. And this is something you really have to work on. You really have to hone this as a skill in order to be able, to be able to get that feeling, understand the nuance. Have you ever been in the room with somebody and you just get a feeling about them that something just isn't right? That gut feeling is what we're talking about here. You're perceiving something, you're not seeing it with your eye, but you're feeling it deep inside. So that's important. Number 5. The true science of martial art means practicing them in such a way that they will be useful at any time, and to teach them in such a way that they will be useful in all things. I want you to think about that for a second. Useful in all things. How can martial arts be useful in all things? Well, a lot of martial arts is connected to and is directly influenced by and influences dance. So think of the movements that a lot of those dancers use, very similar to martial arts. Number 1. Number 2, thinking internally and studying creates methodologies in the mind that allow you to be a better thinker and have more cognitive abilities than those that do not. It's just a fact. It creates pathways in your brain that allow you to look at a situation and be able to determine whether it is positive or negative. It's a good thing to use. Number 6. There is nothing outside of yourself that can ever enable you to be better, stronger, richer, quicker, or smarter. Everything is within. Everything exists. Seek nothing outside of yourself. What does that mean? It means that as you go through this, all the abilities are already pre-programmed in your prefrontal cortex, right? All of the desires are already laid down in the amygdala, right? It's you as a person are kind of pre-built. In fact, there is a belief out there, one that I happen to agree with, and of course it's in my books, that we're all part of a larger thing that's out there, and we're all receiving inputs from that larger existence. Whether you want to call that God, whether you want to call that the universe, or maybe it's the same thing to you. Certainly is for me. There's aspects of that I find important to believe in and follow, including different philosophies by different folks that have existed in the past, whether they be deities or not. And so thinking about that, if everything that you need is inside yourself or you're connected to it, you've got everything that you need to be successful. Now you might laugh at that, because here I am, I guess you'd say, talking about samurai logic and philosophy when I'm sitting in one of my Suzuki Samurais. Isn't that kind of funny? A little twist there for you. And so that's kind of fun. But I mean, I can afford bigger cars and stuff, and I make pretty good money. The question is, what do I actually enjoy, and what do I actually need in order to be happy? Remember, everything is within you, including your ability for happiness. A lot of people say, oh, well, my spouse isn't happy, or I'm not happy. Happiness is a decision that you make. And then you've got to put those things together in order to make that decision come through to fruition. Yeah, it's true. All right. Next. Number 7. You can only fight the way you practice. Now let me expand on this a little bit. What Miyamoto is trying to say here is, yes, you've got to practice your skill in order to be efficient, to be able to do the things, to be able to have higher levels of skill, yada, 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 all of that. But I think what also is being said here is that if there's something you want to be able to do in your life, not just martial arts, but anything, you need to be able to practice it, and then it'll happen, just by existing. Just like I said about happiness a minute ago. Practice being happy. And you'll find it rewires your brain, and it will lead you to more happiness. All right. So there's that. All right. Next. Regret. 8. Regret is a waste of time. Do not regret what you have done. Why? Well, number one, you can't go back, right? It's done. You did it. Whether it was a terrible thing, whatever it was, all you can do is go forward. And if you did something, especially if it hurt somebody else, make it up to them. You know what I mean? Don't stew in your own minutia, saying, "Oh, if I had only..." Bull crap. Don't live in regret. Oops, that was a Skeeter. I had to chase him out of the car. Get out of here. Oh, look, there he is right there. I don't mean to flip you all the bird, but you see, that's the Alaska state bird right there. Man, mosquitoes. They're thick up here. And there's a dozen different varieties of mosquitoes in Alaska. Wow. Anyway, don't regret. I don't regret killing that mosquito, though. All right. Number 9. It is difficult to understand the universe if you only study one planet. Now, I want you to think about this. Miyamoto was a Buddhist, but he was, of course, surrounded by people who believed in the Shinto religion. And if you have read one of my other books, Of God and Man, or been out to my website, ofgodandman.org, you would know that the Shinto knew about the existence of the earth revolving around the sun, with all the other planets revolving around the sun, and that the sun revolved around the center of the Milky Way galaxy, and that the Milky Way galaxy revolved around the center of the cosmos.